Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
All right, here we go. We got Roger Lee in the house, Kevin Flippen.
Good evening.
Rob Dull. Roger's here because this is our first 100 episodes look back. We've actually had 100 before tonight, episode 0 plus 1 through 99. Roger has listened to, I think, every minute of every episode, right?
Yes.
We also have Rob Dull here, who has also listened to every minute of every episode. I wish you could see their faces. They're not very excited to claim that they've listened to all the stuff. But Rob is also a super fan, but he's not the OG super fan, but he is also a most of the time scribe.
Correct.
No, actually full-time scribe. Even though you're not at all of them, you do all the write-ups. And then, of course, the occasional co-host, Kevin Flippen, is here. He's listened to, he claims about 25%, but I think 40. It's more like 4%. Yeah. 40%. You listen to yours, the one you and Al did.
38 times.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so I think what we're going to do is have both superfans share their top 10 in no particular order, and Kevin and I will comment as we see appropriate.
All right.
Does that work?
Yep.
All right, so do we want to go do a little back and forth? We'll start with Roger.
Sure.
Any of your top 10?
He is the OG.
He is the OG superfan.
Yeah.
We probably should start with him.
Yeah, there it is. I'm so important that Rob is a scribe now. So
Right. You don't have to lift a finger.
the thing that I got was a hat.
Hey, hold on. You did get a hat.
I did get a hat.
Yeah, you're not kidding about that.
No.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to get a hat.
Right.
So I, like no particular order, the way I have him noted, the first one is that comes up would be Wally Rainier.
Rainer. You always screw that
I know,
up.
I always do. His episode. So background, I first met him coaching Little League football. My son played together. I knew about him, obviously, from his playing days, growing up a UVA football fan. So I knew about him. He is everything that was on the episode was probably 90% of who he is in real life on the football field. And I don't know if there's anybody else that I've ever met in my entire life that if he could motivate me to literally run through a brick wall or fight Andre the Giant.
Yeah, if you listen to that episode, you take the intensity you hear on the episode and take it up a little bit, but not a ton.
No.
And it's still really intense.
Yeah, and I think that's who he is in real life all the time. And so his 4 kids are amazing kids. I know his middle son, and obviously Zaire, the kid that played for us. I know of his youngest son. I don't know his daughter, but I couldn't imagine what it's like to live in that house with that intensity all the time, or live in that way. But I mean, they're great kids. So they're turned out really well.
Yeah, Wally's got to be a good dad, right?
Yeah.
Those kids don't turn out that way without having a good father.
No, absolutely.
It's funny. I coach with his brother-in-law. Coach baseball with his brother-in-law.
Oh, really?
So, and the only time I've actually seen Wally in person, we were at a tournament this past summer. I told you about this. It was probably 95 degrees out. I mean, everybody's under a tent. Wally was sitting in his chair daring the sun.
Oh, yeah.
He was just sitting there. I was like, that's got to be him.
He was trying to take on the sun.
He's a big dude, right?
Oh my gosh!
But he was over there just chattering at the kids. It was great.
What was it like? One of the first experiences I think that I always remember. Always remember. We had this game at Virginia Beach, and I mean, just making a statement. We were literally in the hood playing against this one team. They were a relatively, they were a good team as far as record-wise, and they've done well overall. And so this was a big challenge for us as we went on to our records, whatever. In Little League football, parents and adults probably start to get really animated.
They talk some smack.
Oh, yeah, all the time. All of a sudden, just out of nowhere, there's some of us who I guess we're here with kids, so like we can't talk back as we would like to.
We should remind ourselves we're supposed to be adults here.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think Wally had enough, or was just talking back, and as he was talking back, other parents started to go along. So it was basically like the little kid of that cartoon with the big dog just walking on, and the little yippy dog just like barking on. We were all the little dogs behind Wally going, if something happens, we're behind Wally, and Wally's taking care of all these people. I mean, it was amazing. And it got to the point when we went down to Florida for the national championship tournament, even my wife got hyped with him. Like he would walk the team in and would just be, just being Wally, who he was. And I think my wife would have put on pads at that moment and then gone out and played. He's an incredible human being.
Are his sons intense on the football field too, or?
I don't think that, I haven't seen them play in a little while. His oldest son, when I saw him play, was pretty reserved, but he's a great athlete.
Yeah.
He was really reserved. His Zaire, who I coach, he wasn't as wide open as his dad on the field, but he played with reckless abandon.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I haven't had an opportunity to see them play high school ball other than one game online, and they're not much different.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so at this pace, if we spend that much time on every single one,
Right.
we're going to go 2 hours.
Yes. So all right. So you're the official timer.
So that's fine. You're excited to talk about Wally, mainly because you're the guy who sourced Wally for the podcast.
Yeah, I was.
You're the one who connected our podcast to Wally.
Yes.
Yes. It's funny that you can't say his last name, though.
No, I can't. I don't think I've ever have ever.
You want to say Rainier every time.
Yeah, I do.
Because there's a Lanier, famous linebacker from the Kansas City Chiefs. Willie, who is from the area as well. Yeah. All right, we're going to have Roger stop talking about Wally.
Yeah.
All right, Rob.
I enjoyed that.
One of your top 10. We can go 2 hours if you want.
All right, so I'm going to go with somebody that is intense, just like Wally, but in a different way. And she was just non-stop on fire the entire podcast, and that was Courtney Farrell.
Yes. She's
So-
got more energy than most people I've been around.
Oh my goodness! I mean, so I've never met Courtney. I love the podcast that she did. Lots of energy, just a ton of fun, and then she read poems. She sang.
She sang a song that she wrote.
Yeah, and got her mom on the podcast. I mean,
Her mom called in, and
Yeah,
we
called
decided
in.
to talk
Right,
to her.
yeah.
Her,
So-
her mom had asked what time. I mean, what time are you doing this? Like it was a radio show.
Yeah.
Yes, good times.
and so I can't remember if I told. So her husband was at Collegiate, I think a year or two behind me.
He was a
So
couple years
Wordy.
behind you.
Yeah. So anyway, I knew the last name, and when you said it, I just thought that was pretty cool too. That there was that little connection. So but-
She's very creative.
Yes.
She loves mixing it up in the world in fun, random, innovative ways. I could follow her around for a couple of days and be entertained probably
without a
95% of that time.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I believe with another guest, Mason,
Yep, Mason knew.
they have actually were inspired by stories from the Center Universe, and now have started their own.
They
podcast.
basically said if those idiots can start a podcast, we know we can start a podcast.
I wasn't going to go there, but you're the host, so you can say.
I'm mainly talking about myself.
All right,
Yes.
very good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right.
And you didn't spend nearly the time that Roger did talking about Wally.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not
perfect.
gonna. I'm not. I mean, we can do this. I mean, Roger can go 10 minutes per person, and I can go about 2, and that way it'll even out.
No, it's fine. I mean, I was
totally
egged
kidding.
on. I mean, I
totally
answered probing
kidding.
It was
questions.
the first one. You were just setting the stage.
absolutely.
We were just warming up. It's
Setting
all
the
good.
bar.
All right, Roger, what do you got for a second
All right,
one? Not number 9, but just a second out of 10.
Yeah, I'm just going down the list. I feel like we're probably going to do a lot of the same. The next one is John Dow. So, listening to his, I think what was amazing is that he just spoke conversationally about the experiences that he had in his life that weren't conversational experiences.
Terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. I mean,
Could you imagine your kids experience something 1/10 of that?
No.
You would never want that.
thousandth.
Yeah,
I mean,
1,000th. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's amazing.
I think to think about, like if my kids at 16 and 17 had to go away forcefully for 2 days, it would be the worst experience of their lives, and they would come back traumatized.
And John was 12 when that whole thing started for him.
And he was gone 3 months, right? Like he trekked across
before he found refugee camp
with nothing, like nothing. And to talk about, my buddy Kevin, he was swimming across this river with me, and then he got eaten by a crocodile. What? What are you talking
Like it was
about?
just happened.
Yeah, just
He
happened.
wrecked his
getting
bike.
shot at.
No, he got eaten by a crocodile.
Yeah, like we were playing basketball Tuesday, Wednesday he got eaten by a crocodile. What?
It's nuts.
Yeah, I would say anybody that has gotten really excited over the last year and a half about various things in this country, and there's some things that we need to address in this country, certainly. But if you think you've had a hard life or you're playing the victim, listen to John's story, and it'll give you a lot of perspective.
Yes.
Big time.
Well, the cool thing is, whenever we talk about this podcast and we say, which episode should you listen to, I think we all throw him in there, one or two.
I think if you force us to say who's in the top 3, John would be, for all of us, in the top 3.
Amazing hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, I feel like we should spend a few minutes talking about John.
The first 2 we could probably spend an hour apiece talking about the experiences, the emotions, the feelings overall of listening to those podcasts and meeting those people, just for a long time. But yeah, we'll stop at that moment.
Well, let me just say that his stories about being in America the first few weeks were hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely hilarious.
The door opening.
Yeah, we're gonna tease it. If you haven't listened to John Dow and you're listening to this, please check out John Dow, episode 62. I have that one memorized because I've said it about 50 times. Very cool. All right, that's a really good one, Roger. Rob, a second one from you, and much better on timing.
Yeah.
Or the length
I'm
of
more
time.
conscious about it now.
Yeah.
All right.
Rob is doing some deep thinking right now.
Yeah. So, so John was on my list too, just to throw that out there. But I've got about.
You can
quite a
shift.
few. Yeah, I'm shifting. So I'm going to stay in the female realm, and again, a lot of energy, but cool, and then I'm just throw it out there that I agree with her a lot on a lot of her subjects. But I'm going to go next with the 2048 presidential candidate, Sarah Wall.
Oh,
So,
one of Daniel Lance's, one of the original co-hosts of this podcast. Yeah, she's a very thoughtful, lovely young lady.
Yeah, and then I think the cool thing about Sarah is then you guys had her back on again, because I'm trying to remember
Aaron Albrecht.
Aaron, yeah. Aaron kind of sided on the left side of the aisle, and Sarah's on the right, and so y'all had them back and had a little, tete-a-tete, just talking about different things.
Very friendly, productive conversation.
No, I mean, it was a great discussion, which I think is, you just talked about what's been going on in the world, and I think if people listen to that podcast with Aaron and Sarah, and their own, the ones they had on their own, I think people would learn a lot, and they would learn a message that we had from an upcoming podcast that I can't mention at this point, about just people can have differences of opinion, but you can still be respectful to each other, be civil, talk it out, and just,
civil discourse, try to understand the other person's perspective sincerely, and you might find common ground where you can both be productive. Yeah,
exactly.
So one of the things that I've always said to you about this podcast, well before I became the occasional co-host, was that it's this podcast makes it about the guest.
Yes.
Because even a couple people that I've been the co-host for, I've sat across going, and I say to myself, it's not about me. It doesn't matter what I think compared to. I mean, we give our opinions when it's asked for.
Sure, or when we think it's necessary.
Not about us though. It's about the guest, and you do a good job of going right down the middle with all the guests that I've seen.
Yep.
Just to your point, I mean, everybody, right, left, middle, whatever.
Yeah, we're not trying to stir up controversy
Not at
here.
all.
We're trying to tell people's stories as sincerely and optimistically and positively as we can. If they have negative parts of their story and that's meaningful to them because it's made them who they are, then that's certainly part of the story. But yeah, we're definitely not trying to divide the world into red and green or red and blue or whatever. I don't know why I said red and green. Green's one of my top 3 colors. Maybe that's what
Christmas colors.
Yeah, there you go. And who doesn't love
being
Christmas?
festive?
I am quite the festive cat. All right, Roger. Third out of 10. And if it's a repeat as we go through these, we can start substituting.
All right. So my number 3 is Du Bois Miller. So
Another fun pronunciation for you.
yeah,
Du Bois.
Du Bois, right? It is what it is. I'm Korean. There it is.
Wait a minute, is that your excuse?
Yes,
You grew up here.
That's good.
You grew.
I grew
You've
up
been speaking English your entire life.
I grew up. I was born and raised in Virginia, so there it is.
You speak English better than I do. Right. I was going to say you do speak better English than a lot of people.
I believe the
but
write-up says second generation. So
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I think he listened to the episode where I said Du Bois.
yes, you're
several
right.
times.
It's Du Bois Miller. His was really interesting, and I thought that like what was really interesting to me about him is he was spouting off historical facts as though as though they were just like out of habit, something of like reading a recipe that he's cooked his entire life.
He's very well read. He was very sincere about his understanding of history. Yes,
It was absolutely amazing. And I think that was a part of that was blown away. I was blown away by that. I don't know if I had any preconceived ideas or notions of going in there and listening to his podcast, but I think like listening from his perspective, just relating fact A, B to some other story, to some other principle, what was really amazing to me.
yeah. He came from nothing in Lynchburg and has a couple of master's degrees and has done well for himself, and his children have benefited from that
Absolutely.
quite nicely. And we connected to Du Bois through his son Ed,
Yes.
who's also been on the podcast.
Yes. I mean, and I think, and I don't know. It was really funny to me. I guess one of the distracting pieces. If I close I had to close my eyes because I couldn't see anything. But if I like didn't think about it, I heard Ed, and so it just made the connection even better.
Yeah, and he's written a couple books too, and he actually was nice enough to bring one and sign it.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
really, really cool, and very thoughtful. And I learned quite a bit.
Yeah, me too.
On a personal level and on a more grand level.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. And Kevin can't speak to this one because he didn't listen to it.
But I wrote it down to make sure. I
Okay.
listened to it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice. All right, Rob, 3rd out of 10.
all right, this one. So we've always talked about favorites and stuff like that, and it's very, especially the beginning when I was just listening to them, rather than when I was as much as I'm here now. When you listen to somebody that you can put yourself right there, and especially somebody that you've known your entire life. So this one I'm going Larry Gilman. So
I can't argue with that one.
yeah. So yeah, episode 9, 3 generations of Gilman. Zach, added a few good words in there.
I think he said 7 words.
I was going to go with 11, but okay. So Larry's known me my entire life, pretty much. I mean, Paul and I have known each other since I was 5 and he was 4. Our dads were friends. We lived on opposite sides of the block, and he was my basketball coach. And I've told him after I lost my dad, Larry's one of 3 or 4 guys, other dads that came to me and said, "I'm here for you." And you never know how much that means to you. Probably right then when you're 19, but it sure means a lot to you later in life. But anyway, just always admired him. And much like you admitted on the podcast, I learned a ton about Larry Gilman that I didn't know, up until that point. So anyway, it was just it was really inspirational to listen to him talk about his life, and then it just meant that much more because he's known me and I've known him, and that just made it really easy to listen to as well.
Yeah, I will say that if nothing happens out of this podcast other than we capture these recordings for posterity, and we're certainly having fun doing these too, but I recorded both of my parents and I learned a ton from both of them, and my kids and my unborn grandkids can listen to stuff, and it's powerful. You get to hear what they were, the way they talked, the tone of their voice, the uniqueness of their voice, and my kids are tied to them for all eternity. And we recorded about 3 hours total between the two of them. It was awesome.
Well, I think to echo everything. some of the interesting podcasts that I got involved, and part of the reason as to why I started listening to podcasts was people that I knew, and so listening to stories of people that I knew that I had no idea anything about them. I think what was unique about your dad's, and I had him as one of my favorites too, is one, like you talked about recording for posterity and having your grandkids listen to this and learning about their great grandfather, but also is that the uniqueness and I guess the experience of being able to talk to your dad, ask your dad questions, and find out things about your dad that you probably wouldn't never have done anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Like, I mean, you'll probably know too. Is that 20 years? I don't know if my son will ever sit down and talk to me and go, "Hey, so what was it like growing up?" I mean, that those conversations probably will never happen, but those did. And because of the podcast, everybody gets to hear it.
Yeah, we've got a vehicle here to make that happen.
Yeah.
And one more note on Larry. We could talk about Larry all night, and I know you guys have known him your whole life. I've known him for 30 years.
Yeah.
The best thing to me about Larry Gilman is you could go play golf with him, you could go hang out with him, go to dinner. He is so cool. Like, you would never know he was a general leading ground troops in a foreign country or a judge. And I'm not saying that because he doesn't carry himself. He just is a regular guy.
Yeah.
He's so nice. He's funny. He's engaging. I love him. I think he's great. But it's just, I've always thought that was cool because, I'm sure there's a lot of generals out there or judges out there that carry themselves a certain way, like cocky or, I'm the man. And, he just never comes across that way. His son does, but
and he tried to knock the confidence out of me plenty growing up. He would just shake his head a lot. Yeah,
good dude.
Yeah, he's a very good guy. And I will tell you, and it's funny. I think I said this on his episode. I said, "Dad, you've never talked about a lot of this stuff. Why not?" And he basically said, "You never asked." Yeah. Right? and that's a point for daughters and sons for their parents.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Hey, there's going to be a time where you should be very interested in what your parents went through.
Absolutely,
good and bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I clearly am a fan of that selection.
Yes, understood.
All right, Roger, fourth out of 10.
So, not on purpose to continue with this, but your mom's episode I think was one of my favorites, and I think I've said it before. Listening to your mom's episode made me feel so worthless as a person. It just made me feel so worthless, and I think from the perspective of everything that she basically accomplished, just as an adult, while being a mother, while being a wife, trying to hold things together, and then have an ambition to go and start a curriculum, in Hanover County of some type of education, doing things that Randolph Macon, and having the drive and motivation to be able to do all that. I think it just absolutely amazes me because I don't know if I have the energy. And if it wasn't for my son, I would have never gotten into youth sports. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for my daughter, I would have never been a part of our summer swim league and things of that nature. I just had to find the energy as it is to cut grass. I couldn't imagine doing everything that she does. And she probably never not one time said, "You know what, I'm not cooking dinner tonight. We're eating out." And I think I look forward to Friday and Saturday nights when I don't have to cook dinner and we can eat out.
Yeah. Yeah, she's 76 now and she really hasn't slowed down. She's I tell everybody, since we went back to back with my parents, I tell everybody that I've won the parent lottery.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. She's accomplished a ton in her life, and she comes from humble beginnings like my dad does. But she was so serious. And at the end of that recording, I'm like, "Mom, what happened to the fun lady that I've known for 52 years?" Yeah, my mom will tell me in the same breath not to be sarcastic, and she'll end the sentence by being sarcastic. Yeah, it's she's a very funny person, but I think she wanted to portray herself as a very serious person, and she is. She's done some serious things in her life, but I'm going to record her again and my dad again. I'm going to do a very long form, perfectly for posterity, just for the family sort of thing. Actually, I just hatched that idea right now, and I want my mom to be like natural self, not to be so serious because the mic's right there and it's being recorded for all time, kind of thing.
See, that's funny because I know your mom is Brinny.
Yeah,
right?
Brinny's
really
she's
cool,
funny.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, number 4 out of 10 for you, Rob.
All right. Well, just like
Or
I did to
4th
Roger,
of 10, I should say.
the one Roger did. I was going to do a combo, so I'm going to make a couple comments if you want, and then
Yeah, sure, please.
then I'll do somebody else. But,
Yep.
So I was actually going to do a combo of the mamas.
Yeah.
So Brenda, I'll just say again, just like I said, Larry, known me my whole life, has been was an amazing support system when I lost my mom, and a story I think I've told you, but Brenda Gilman essentially straightened out my life in college. So you were still a senior. I had come home from my first semester of college, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, unlike a lot of people when I went to school. And then I came out the first semester with not doing very well in accounting because I wanted to do business. And she straightened my life out in 20 minutes sitting in your living room on South James Street.
I think you told me this a long time ago, and I'd forgotten about it.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, of course, she was at Randolph-Macon. At that time, she was a counselor, I think. She wasn't a professor yet. And she essentially said, the basic message was, what do you like? What do you do well in? What do you like? And I said history and English, and she said, go for it. And she said, do liberal arts. And, I'm a year older than you. This is mid-'80s, and I think they still do it today, but a lot of companies, want somebody to come in. They're going to teach you 90% of the job. The other part of it, they want you to be able to carry on a conversation about many different subjects, and a liberal arts education does that for you.
Yeah.
And, of course,
that's very well said. And for any kids that are in high school freaking out about college and what are you going to major in, it really doesn't matter for most endeavors after college.
Right, exactly. If you want to be really, really specialized, go for it. But a good general education is going to do you quite well and allow you to do a lot of different things. I mean, I went into law enforcement. It had nothing to do with history.
Right.
But anyway, and then Daniel's mom, as the title was, Mama Lance. Just a really intriguing story, in just respect of how a lot, I think, with her and Brenda in common was they did it in different ways, but the amount of things, like Roger said, the amount of things that they did in the time, that they were, when their kids were growing up and things like that. I mean, all the moving around and, following, his dad around to his various jobs, but was just really impressed, and she was, both of them were, and your mom, she was a little serious. Mama Lance was a little looser. That was kind of a cool,
But she was pretty serious too, more serious than I think she naturally is too.
Yeah. Right. So, and you said it, people do behave a little differently when they gotta, sometimes when they have a mic in front of them. So,
doesn't have that effect on everybody, but it certainly has that effect on some.
But anyway, so I was just, again, like I said with Larry, learned a couple things about your mom that I didn't know, and then I just really found Ms. Lance's podcast just, again, really intriguing, and all the different things they did, all the places they went, and I think that's reflected in Daniel and how he's, you talk about it with him when he was on the podcast about, he's kind of a worldly, guy.
Yeah, much more worldly than most of humanity.
Oh yeah, exactly. So.
If I'm ever asked some of my top, and I have that one as well. Those are some of the exact same words, and it's almost verbatim as I told you. I mean, I think listening to her, and I think even thinking about my experiences, I would never probably have, if I moved my family into a different country, I don't know if I would personally integrated my kids into that particular culture as she has. Yep. I mean, we would probably tell our kids you need to learn this, that, and the other about the culture that you're living in, about the place that you're living in, but not necessarily dive deep as
deep as they could.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, that helped Daniel to be who he is today.
Yeah, and his sister.
Yes.
And the other, and he has two other.
Oh yeah, that's right. The other one's here. Yeah. I just thought of his sister immediately because I'll just throw it in there too, just related to Mama. Her podcast was really good too.
Yeah, absolutely. So. All right, I don't care about time anymore. I mean, we don't need to go 2 hours, but we also don't need to feel like we're rushed.
Yep.
So my apologies up front for rushing you on your number 2.
That's all right.
I think we're up to number 5 out of 10.
So mine's going to be next one is Vincent Miller. the Alabama police officer.
Not that's is that's what's his name? Tag on it. It's not Vincent Miller. There's a Vincent, and then there's
Just the guy that came from California
Yes.
to Alabama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Davis Burnett.
Is it?
His name is Davis
Burnett,
Burnett.
yeah.
Wow.
Davis Burnett. That's him. You're right.
Davis Burnett.
I totally typed down the wrong thing. Anyway.
So we're having fun with you and names tonight.
Yeah. Well, again, I think from the one of the other episodes, I told you that I don't remember the actual names. I know their stories. So
Right.
like if I tell you the base of the story,
The stories are a lot more interesting than the names. Right?
But his was really. I think at the time where we are today in the world, especially after last year, listening to his story was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I think coming firsthand from some of his experiences was just really like wow. Just absolutely wow. I think you hear rumors and you maybe innuendos, but to be able to hear some of the stories, and I don't even know if like he was able to like go, into fourth gear of really what he wanted to like really talk about.
Yeah, off recording, we talked about a lot more, and it was there's parts of this country's history and certain states in this country that have more shameful past than others, and he got to experience, frankly, one of those states that has a shameful past from the sensibilities, or a guy with the sensibilities of growing up in Central California. He had not been exposed to any of that.
Yeah.
Not even close. And so, what he was sharing and where he is today with the whole notion of equality amongst the races, he's got a really powerful perspective, and people should be listening to him. And he listens to everybody. I mean, that lesson can't be told or learned enough, that listening to, I'll say, most perspectives is valuable. I still will argue that extreme one side and extreme the other side, it's just a bunch of noise, but there's a lot of really good stuff in the middle that doesn't perfectly align with what any one person thinks besides that person. But anyway, Davis was a powerful example of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good episode. Yeah, very good episode.
I'm not trying to be funny. You listen to that one? Yeah, it's a good one. Number 5 out of 10, or 5th of 10, I should say, not
5th
in
of 10,
any
yep.
order.
All right, so this one was a pretty recent one, and I'll just go ahead and say you got some new decorations at the studio here.
Yes, we do. I wish we were on video, because Kevin and I do have audio faces. We should be on video.
Yeah.
Face for radio.
Roger's definitely a video face.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Shot fired. Rob doesn't fire many shots.
Wait, no, he should be on video. Like he's.
Oh, I thought you were
a
saying the
handsome
opposite.
fella. No, I'm sorry.
I heard the opposite.
My bad. I didn't know where y'all were
Think you're a
going with
handsome
that.
man, apparently.
I know.
Anyway, I'll go back to Jeremy Mulder. He wasn't here. Obviously doesn't live here. He lives in Alabama, and so we did a Zoom with him. But we could actually, we did the Zoom. We could actually see him, and his story first of all was really neat. Just how he came up. Living in Pensacola, which what do you say they call that, southern
Lower Alabama.
Lower Alabama.
Yeah, because if you just follow the west coast and the east coast of Alabama and take it straight down,
Right.
and you incorporated that landmass,
Yeah,
it
you
would
run
be
into
Lower
the-
Alabama.
yeah,
It
you
happens
run
to be
into the Panhandle.
the Panhandle, of Florida.
But just little things. The stories he told about doing woodworking with his granddad, and then I know Roger Kent too. He talked about playing high school football, and pretty cool that Emmett Smith went to his high school, and he got to see him one time, and but so having that high school football thing in common. My son and him, not me, but anyway, and then just he tried the junior college thing, didn't work out. Came from a family that had fought in a lot of wars and served this country, and decided that's what he wanted to do, and he just wants to go and be a grunt, and then he does well enough that they say, hey, you got a medical aptitude.
As a guy who was a grunt in the Army, he was too smart to be a grunt,
Right.
so they made him a combat medic.
Yeah. So, but and then just the stories he told about their mission on his couple tours, and and then relaying some of the things that he went through, and so it was just neat. And And then, I think the realness of him and not wanting to talk about a couple things, and then being very honest with us on why he left the Army, and then real about his present day, but then what he's doing with these flags and still doing something where he's serving vets, he's serving the country, and the fact that his wife, who came on for a few minutes and talked a little bit, was awesome, and that they've got that going together with a partner, and then just you could also again, just having kids like we all do here sitting at this table, you could just you could hear the pride in both their voices too when they were talking about their son and stuff like that. So it was a whole lot packed into that time frame, but I just thought it was a really, really neat story.
He and I are staying connected.
Yeah.
And I'm staying connected because he's done a lot for this country. He's done more than I think 99% of Americans can fathom.
Yep.
And he's been affected. He'll be affected for the rest of his life by his service. And so, but he's still giving back, which is incredible.
Phenomenal.
And he's just he's a sincere, really, really good guy.
Yeah.
And so if I could surround myself with people like that,
you could tell that in his face when we were seeing it.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
Which is another reminder we need to figure out video at some point. All right, we're officially at the halfway mark.
All right.
6 for
6
Roger.
is Amanda Ripley. Hers was really good. I really
Can I just say that you nailed the pronunciation and you
Yes.
actually got the name
Yes.
correct?
Believe it or not.
because it's an American name.
Yeah.
Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
I really enjoyed Amanda's episode, and just like her talking, certainly about podcasts and like how everything went along. I think the interesting piece about hers is her episode, I think, led me to her podcast when she was talking about that Vanished podcast, or it's Vanished. It's called
You are
Vanished.
mixing up two people right now.
That's the same person, right?
It's not the
No.
same person. There's Caroline Slaughter, who you're talking about,
Oh.
and Amanda Ripley. Let's just say if Amanda Ripley's not in your top 10, it's fine.
That's fine.
And look, if you're embarrassed, it's all good. Don't be embarrassed.
you're good.
Just
Okay.
do a podcast. But hold on. Amanda Ripley testified in Congress a few weeks ago. So whether she lands in either one of your top 10s, I was very happy to have her on the podcast. She's a wonderfully brilliant, super thoughtful person. And if you want to get like real information, she's one of those few people that's actually putting out real information without an agenda.
All right. So then,
Caroline Slaughter.
Caroline Slaughter.
You're literally 1 for 6 on getting names right so far.
There it is.
But it's about the story.
All right. I just got a text. I need to go. Caroline Slaughter, but listening, like her episode led me to her podcast, and that her podcast was incredible, was absolutely incredible, and it was so incredible that it was hard for me to put myself in those positions and in the people's situations, and I'm just fascinated. I think I'm fascinated by all of it. So the India syndrome, and everything that goes along with like a self-awareness and the spirituality of everything. I wanted to be careful and not say these are fruitcakes that are going to India and then doing all these things. But I wanted to step back and just understand like everything just about what her episode was, and then everything that led her to there. It's absolutely fascinating. Like I think I was more disappointed in the fact that it was more set up as a documentary than like a series, right?
Yeah.
Because it literally it's over, and so if she does more, then I'll be happy to listen to them all or listen.
Have you checked recently? I haven't checked on her recently because I thought that they were going to end up doing another series or several other.
I haven't checked, so
Yeah, we should check. It's a good reminder to check.
Yeah.
Very well researched documentary, and she was made to do voice work. Like she does the voice for Subway commercials and a bunch of other national brands or international brands in some cases. Yeah, Caroline Slaughter.
Doesn't she do the voice for the podcast?
No, that's not her. That's a different
Who's
person. That is Katy
That's
DeConing.
Katy.
Oh,
Katie's did an episode with her husband, and she's also joined us for a couple other things that we didn't release. I'll just leave it at that.
Cool.
All right, 6th of 10.
Very good. All right. So this one I'm going Kyle Stevenson.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, just and I think I don't know. I mean, just he talked about growing up New Jersey and then football and
He's 5'7" with heels probably.
Right.
And he played nose guard at UPenn.
Yeah.
He wears heels?
I'm just saying he's not 5'7". Like a lot of people who are shorter, Roger Lee.
He's probably legitimately 5'7".
Roger's legitimately 5'5.5", times 5'7".
My driver's license says I'm 5'7".
Yeah, I guess you could have put 6. You did put 6'4", but anyway,
I have a legal document that says what my height is.
It's not like anybody measured you that day.
I mean, it's still a legal document.
I understand.
You know, Spud Webb was 5'7". Anyway, go ahead.
That's fine.
Oh, was it Muggsy Pogues was 5'3"?
He was 5'3".
5'3", right?
So anyway, but I just found Kyle's story interesting. I don't know why. It just kind of spoke to me, and I liked that he worked hard. He went, obviously, like you just said, to a great school. He goes there and plays football. He talked about the grind of playing, a Division I sport. And then he's got the grind of a Ivy League education on top of that.
And they didn't give those guys any slack.
No, definitely not. And so I thought that was cool. And then one thing I found interesting about Kyle is I'd really like to hook my son Jack up with him because Jack's got a couple entrepreneurial ideas about real estate and what he has done and built with his life and just the way he turned a lot of his early experiences and again with him I just go back, which you've had several guests who I think this is a theme, just that grind of going through it and working hard for what you want, and he's been very successful in the real estate industry, and I just thought that was neat, and it was just a great story. And again, with the hard work, I think is what I really liked about
his dad's first generation, Kyle second generation, and
right.
Kyle mixes it up in everything he does. He's a big football guy, coaches his kids in sports, and he's always busy. He's a hard man to get a hold of. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So just really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so,
good one.
Yeah.
Roger, number 7.
Right.
Just quick. You can go 2 for 7 if you get this name, if you nail it.
Chris Young.
There
it is.
2 syllables.
Chris Young.
Roger's power fisting right now.
Yeah. So I think similarly with the Alabama police officer, his was really interesting and really relative, based or relative, I guess whatever the word is, based on the times of what was happening last year. I think as I was listening to I think the thing that stands out again is that he spoke matter-of-factly of the segregated proms, right?
Which I was stunned by.
Yeah. And I think it led me to even point of Googling it just to see if, not that he wasn't telling the truth, but if it was something
you're curious
that you could research.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, it pops up in Alabama and some of the southern states where they still had segregated proms.
I think they still do today.
It's incredible. Just absolutely incredible. I couldn't even imagine it.
Well, I said, when did you graduate high school? And he said 2000. I'm like, it was still going in 2000. And the pandemic had just hit us like a couple months earlier. And he said, Paul, the last time they had prom, it was still segregated in 2019.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't understand. And of course, he looks at me like, it's adorable. You don't understand that that's something that happens because you don't have to worry about shit like that.
It was pretty interesting. And then I think, even living life and having those experiences and then being, the highest rated recruit
to go to
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and I worked with him for, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years, and he never talked about that stuff.
I don't know how it doesn't, the stuff like that, I guess because I haven't lived that way, how it doesn't impact you, especially your perspective on, I don't know, society, the world.
I'm sure it does.
And being successful.
I'm sure it does impact him. I think he's it's fascinating that he's able to stay in control.
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah.
Is the best
No,
way
that's
to say
a
it.
good point.
Because that's the first one that you told me to listen to.
Yeah.
And I listened to it. I loved it. I thought this is fantastic. I want to meet this guy. That's how much I liked that episode and his point of view. And he was very frank, like you said, about it all. Like, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right.
No.
We now, it's how we react to it.
Absolutely. And I think to the point too, it's like he could have been very, extreme on one side, been extreme on one side, been extreme on the other. But he was, again, matter of factly, right down the middle. And, part of that we could learn from, a part of it.
Well, he's speaking in a way where he wants to be heard. And so, but he also wants to be true to himself.
Absolutely.
And that combination is pretty powerful.
Well, just I also throw in the fact that him and his wife in their neighborhood, remember their neighbors were like, we want to come talk to you.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I think the only African-American family in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. And they were willing to do it. They're like, yeah, come.
Yeah.
It's cool. Good dude.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of conversations had the last year and a half that I don't think anybody saw coming.
Yep.
And I think they're better for the country for us having those conversations. All right, that was number 7. Rob is 6 for 6. You are 2 for 7. Rob, number 7.
I'm going to go with a 2-syllable just so I can maintain my, my streak
Your
here.
perfect streak.
So you talked about it a little bit. Everybody knows your military background. I think for that you were in the military at the very least. So you've had several folks on that you have known through that, or that we've run into. I mean, Jeremy was not somebody you knew, but he's still military, but you've had several guys that you served with or met through the military.
Right.
And so just in general, I'll say all of them were way cool just to hear about their different experiences and then different perspectives, on the different, I mean, even your brother-in-law Ross, I mean, just he talked about it from a Navy perspective where, you've had a lot of Army guys on stuff. But anyway, one that I, just because I think it's been one of the cooler stories that's been told on the podcast, I'm just going to go with Gene Burke.
Yeah.
So one of the early podcasts, and hearing about his overall story and what he's kind of doing with his life. He's I think a few years ahead of us.
He is a lot older than I am. I've known Gene a long time. He knows I joke about his age.
Okay.
He's still in his 50s.
Right. Yeah. But he's just ahead of us in respect of, he talked about being an empty nester. We're still a few years away from that, but we're seeing the light. You have a very long way to go, Mr. Flippen. And Roger's probably in between a little bit. So, but anyway, but just the main story, of course, that he told about the helicopter, and he pretty
It's
much
one of the best stories you'll ever hear.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, and he thinks he's going to get wet, and then he lands on a golf course. I mean, how freaking cool is that?
Nice.
Now, I mean, I'll say I like that a lot because I love golf, so I just found that was cool too. But
yeah, we won't give away the story.
No, yeah, sorry. All right,
they'll have to go listen to it.
Yes, yeah, definitely go listen to it. But listen to the details that he talks about when he's telling the story. It's really pretty neat.
Well,
So-
and I'll say that his daughter was inspired after listening to her dad, and she's heard a lot of those stories, especially the story you're talking about, and it inspired her to start her own podcast.
Oh, no way.
And it actually starts tomorrow.
Oh, way cool.
They release their. It's very different than what we're doing, and I can never remember the name of it, but I'll mention it on a future podcast because it's super creative. It's a lot of local actors that are doing voice acting. Gene's daughter Katy wrote everything, and they're acting it out. And these are like top actors in the Richmond area.
Very cool.
wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So that's at least 2 podcasts that have been at least in part inspired by what
There
we're
you
doing
go.
here.
Gene's a good storyteller.
Yes.
Yes.
He really
he is.
is. He does. What was the other part and that I recall in his episode that was fun? Oh, when I think that was the episode where you had to leave for a little bit.
My wife yelled for me. Yes.
And Daniel, it's like Gene flipped the interview.
Poor Daniel had no idea what was coming.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
He started asking Daniel questions.
Well, he did it to me too, and I'm like, we're not doing that tonight, Gene.
That's great.
Yeah, we're here to talk about you, Gene. Yeah, Gene's a very good storyteller. He's a very good guy, and he served our country for a long time. He deployed a handful of times, and so yeah, he's part of that top 1/10 of 1% that I talked about.
The baseball story was funny too.
He had some good stories. Yeah. All right, number 8, Roger. You have a chance to go 3 for 8, man.
I think I'm gonna mess this one up. And Loeb.
Yeah, nice.
There it is.
Okay,
All right.
good. Yeah.
Hers was incredible. I listened to hers as I was waiting on my son getting his surgery, and so I was listening to hers. Listening to her, I think part of I don't know what it's been, but this fascination about the Holocaust in itself, growing up and learning about it. And then to hear about a Holocaust survivor and then just telling her stories about it was incredible. And I think the two things that pop up that I always remember if we're going to tease episodes, one is having her uncle, tell her, don't get off the train.
Yeah. She probably would have died as a teenager.
Could not imagine, the same thing with John Dow, could not imagine what it would have felt like to be that young in that moment and knowing that this was life or death potentially, right? I mean, I can remember not wanting to bring home a report card because I knew I was going to get beat by my mom and get in trouble. That is probably a million times less than this particular experience.
But to you, it wasn't.
Right. Well, I mean, but still,
it's all relative, I guess.
And then when she met or when she found out that there was, I guess, a Nazi officer, right, living on her street.
Yep.
And literally not wanting to go up to his door and just say, "I know who you are. I know what you did."
When she came back as an older person, she was an adult, well into her adult. I think she was in her 40s, and that guy was still in the house across the street that she.
But I mean,
she grew up in that neighborhood.
But not being overly confrontational, right? Not I couldn't imagine as who I am today, being able to contain myself enough to just to be mature and an adult about it all.
She had every right to react very differently.
Amazing.
Yeah. Wow. And went through some incredible things, and I was very appreciative that she was willing to talk to us about it. We were fortunate, and I was able to find this on the internet, the manifest of the ship that she, her parents, and her younger brother took. And it's got their names on there. I couldn't believe I was looking at it.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'll just mention that John Watts connected us to her, and John has been a big supporter of the podcast and has helped me on a few occasions.
Good stuff.
Cool. You're now 3 for 8. Rob, attempting to go 8 for 8.
All right. So I'm going to go last one released, and I'm a little biased on this one.
Sure.
He's a very good friend of mine.
You sourced him, yeah.
Well, I'm not going there, but anyway. But Pedro Aruza, football coach at Randolph-Macon, just a really great guy in a lot of aspects, and I think actually, and I'll harken back much like your dad. Another thing I admire about your dad is his faith, and that's probably one of the things I admire most about Pedro. And he stated on the podcast that the two things that had the biggest impact on him, especially early in life, were football and faith. And so I know him very well. I know his family very well. And then he relayed a little bit to us about what he went through, as a young person. And I mean, he's in 4 different countries in the first 7 years of his life, and comes to the U.S. and, has to learn English in 2nd grade. And then, again, you talk about, again, hard work and the grind and doing everything you need to do to get the most out of life and be the best that you can be. And then turning that into the message that he talked about of, how he wanted to make a difference, and how his mom wanted to be a lawyer, and that's great, and it's a great profession, and we need them and everything. But he felt in his heart the way that he could make the biggest difference on on young men's lives was to be a coach. And again, a little bit of bias, but not too much, because all you got to do is look at his record. He's really, really successful at it, and he develops. I mean, I think he said it during the thing, and I know he says it in some promo. He develops men that are going to be good people, good fathers, good husbands, and I think he wants that most for his players, and so anyway, it was just inspiring, listening to his early story and then what he's turned it into, and what he does now, how much he loves his players, and then he talks, how much he loves Ashland, the center of the universe, and really found it funny. I was listening to it again today and found it really funny about, that essentially he'd never been in the state of Virginia.
Yeah.
and then comes here and gets a head coaching job.
He's been here 18 years.
At 30 years old, I might add. So, which a head coaching job at any level at 30 is pretty amazing. So,
yeah, I'll add a couple things real quickly.
Yeah.
One, his natural intensity is pretty rare.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing I'll say is, we tried to explore him playing in college, and he was giving kind of short answers. And I think, Kevin, you looked him up. Like, he was a legit stud at that program.
Yeah. And that's
very humble.
Yeah.
He is very humble, and that speaks volumes about him. And he talked on the podcast about about character, and I can tell you the Randolph-Macon football players, they got a high character dude to look up to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I'm 3/4 of the way through that podcast, and so I think what was really relatable for me, outside of my brother playing at Randolph-Macon before Pedro, is thinking about my son. He's a junior in high school. He at some point, as a young kid, wanted to play college football. I think he came to the realization that he's not 6'4", doesn't have 4.3 speed, and is not going to go to a Division I school. But the whole point is that as a father listening to this and thinking, playing football for somebody else or for a particular school, and using that to develop him as a person, and even helping him get through college. He's a type of coach and a leader and a mentor that I would want for my son.
Yep.
Great. I was really excited to hear this.
So the podcast functioned as a recruiting tool.
Yes, it
for
does.
Randolph-Macon football.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. There you go.
Very cool. All right, so we got 4 left, and I'll just give you a heads up that we should all have our final thoughts for the first 100 episodes.
All right.
But we don't have to do that yet. So number 9 out of 10, you can go 4 for 9 if you nail this one. Right.
Calvin Duncan.
Yes, nice.
There it is. So, living in this area all my life, I don't know if I was ever, aware or a big fan of VCU basketball as I should have been. And so Calvin was really, I guess, before my time. And I think when I was younger and into college basketball, I mean, it just wasn't VCU, right? I was more into UVA basketball with Ralph Sampson and all those folks. Don't shake your head.
UVA had a stronger brand, but I'm not sure they had a
better team,
a necessarily better team or a better program.
Right. Well, and so listening to Calvin and then where he is today,
You're good.
where he is today, was pretty incredible. And I mean, it was. I guess educational is right. Is just learning more about him and where he is today, and truly really inspirational. I think you showed me some of the text that he sends out.
He's putting goodness into the world.
Yeah, and the world needs a lot more people like him.
He's one of the best guys there is out there.
Yes,
Literally one of the best guys. And he has stayed in Richmond and mentors young folk,
Absolutely.
young guys. I literally got the opportunity to play in a league that he was playing in at one point, and I hurt my ankle messing around coaching with Gilman and couldn't play.
Which, by the way, we were the best coaches in Ashland
We were.
basketball.
Couldn't play
history.
in the game against him. But before the game, this guy doesn't know me. Comes over, I've got a crutch, sitting in the stands, and asked how I'm doing. Because, I guess he'd seen me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God, Calvin Duncan just asked me how I'm doing. I was excited to play against him. Couldn't.
Right.
And he was nice enough to come over. Doesn't know me from Adam.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
was like,
Didn't have
what
to
a
step
nice
in your
guy.
didn't have to step in your direction. Didn't have to
Not
say
at
a
all.
word to you.
Not at all. So yeah, and his episode was awesome.
Yeah, it was really. There's a lot of episodes that I think after you listen to it, it really wants you to change your life and like I can do better.
Right.
His was absolutely one of them.
Yeah,
Motivating.
and you want to talk about humble beginnings.
Yeah.
And the thing that really struck me is he realizes that he's had help from every part of society. And he loves his fellow man, and he doesn't care what color they are, what their background is, what their gender is. He's there for everybody. And yeah, I agree, Roger. We need more people like Calvin, no doubt. All right, you're doing better. If you nailed it the last one, you're going 500.
500, yeah.
So, are you changing your top 10 around just so you can say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the easy
No.
name.
Well, Calvin is definitely top 10
That's great.
worthy. All right, Rod, number 9 for you.
All right, sorry. I think Roger could actually go 6 for 10. I think he's 5 for 9 right now.
No, I think he's 4 for 9.
No, 4 for 9?
He
We
was
can
3 for 8 at one point, so he's.
We can.
Hey,
Well.
dude, I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, he was
so.
trying to give you one you don't deserve. In fact, the Amanda Ripley to Caroline Slaughter should count as like 3 mistakes.
All right, real quick. So I had Calvin on mine. I just want to touch on this real quick, and then I think we're at 100 episodes. I think we're about 6% are VCU basketball players, and so we've had 6, right? Or is it 5?
We've had 5. We've had 6 VCU athletes. Clay Meredith being the
gotcha.
6th,
Yep. Okay.
but we're lining up a 6 basketball player.
Yeah, right.
Kevin
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, so I did just want to touch on that, being that they are 5% of the first 100. I just real quick on a grouping, their stories have been really incredible, and I think a common theme a lot is in some form or fashion, whether it's a couple of them just doing youth sports to people like Calvin and Orlando who are definitely mentoring people, and then like Lionel, Boys and Girls Club of Virginia. I mean, just
I think it's Virginia Home for Boys.
so that's right.
Yeah.
I get that mixed up, and he told us about that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just wanted to touch on VCU basketball players. All those have been really good, and
Those 5, you're not going to regret listening to those 5.
no,
stories.
definitely not. Definitely
But
not.
just to piggyback on that, if you were to ask me my favorite episodes, he'd be in my top 3. Lionel.
Yeah.
And not because I sourced him. Just because I think he's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
All the stuff that he's gone through, the stories he had growing up. And
Right. You talk about humble beginnings again. I mean,
unbelievable.
he's another one.
Unbelievable.
So,
Beecher Terrace, I
Yeah.
believe. And
Right.
then the fact that we were able to help him, maybe indirectly, find more information about his father.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Definitely
awesome.
one of the coolest things to come out of this podcast, I think. So was the fact of him being able to learn more about his dad. So.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. So anyway, but my number 9, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go 9 for 9 at this point, is
Getting cocky on us.
trying, is Rachel Adcock. So,
Okay, all right.
And again, I think now I'm gonna touch on the folks that we're getting, and we just talked a little bit about some of these players and a couple other folks, but just kind of a unfortunate normal occurrence in our world is cancer, and but just the positivity and the way that she fought it and the way that she's going on, and then taking that and writing a book, again with a lot of positive about what she went through, not woe is me type situation. Roger mentioned earlier about, it's inspiring, to listen to somebody tell their story about battling, what many people, and thank God it's so much better now than it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But a lot of people still view cancer as a death sentence, and now so many people are so good about fighting it and just going after it and saying you're not gonna take me. And I just found a lot of inspiration from her story, and and the fact then again that she, did something to give back, and give other people hope and tell her story. So,
Yeah, she wrote a book about it, and
Yeah.
it was not to make money or anything. She
no,
wanted to help other.
All the proceeds go to the American Cancer Society, I believe. or
Yeah,
something.
she wants to help young women. She wants to help
Yep.
her fellow man,
fellow
and-
person. Yeah.
So what's really cool about this is that I think before we got started, one of the principles was not to pick out folks that we personally know or work with, so to speak. So I know Rachel from the place that
The bakery.
the
bakery,
bakery.
yeah.
The
Which you
bank
thought was
that-
weird, I remember on your episode.
What's that?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I know. I called it out. That was my bad. I should have known.
I think you actually said the name too.
As the Superfan, yeah.
I know it was
The original OG.
a shameful, so shameful. But I had no idea about that part about Rachel at all.
Yeah, me either.
Of
She-
all the
she doesn't
times
talk
that I
about it.
knew
She doesn't talk
knew
about
her. Yeah, so it was really incredible. I mean, it was really incredible. I mean, not like her boys used to wrestle with with Maddox when they wrestled. So I would see her, even outside of work. But like for her to have like that inspirational story, to know her background, and to always be upbeat, yeah, she's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
very.
agree.
All right, last one for you, Roger.
The last one for me is Mohammed Saeed. Got it
Wow,
right?
yes, you nailed that.
Yeah, I'm awesome.
Nice.
I had to redeem myself somehow. His was really incredible, and I think similar to John's, just to be able to listen to some of his stories and experiences, and for him to be able to talk, as a matter of factly about everything, what was absolutely incredible. I mean, I think some of those experiences and stories, it's almost as though I could see the movie, I could see the like the TV show in my head as he's talking about it, almost feeling the same emotions probably at that same moment in times. I thought it was really cool, and he was brought on to you by another guest, right?
No, he actually wasn't another guest. As I think the three of you know, I talk way too much about the podcast, and so I'll tell this story because it makes me sound like an idiot, but it'll be humorous for other people. There's a guy who is doing an estimate at the house, and I said, "Hey, you ever listen to podcasts?" And you like NASCAR? Do you know anybody in NASCAR? That kind of thing. Anyways, he goes, I don't really know anybody I could give you that's well known, but I work with a guy who has a pretty incredible story that nobody really knows about, and he was talking about Muhammad, so he passed along our email address. Muhammad emailed me, and that's how we connected. But Muhammad then connected me to Justin Addison.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had met back, I guess.
Muhammad was the interpreter for their 3-person PSYOPs
Yeah,
team.
and so how they kept their relationship, I thought was really, really neat.
Yeah, well, Justin was the best man at Muhammad's wedding that just happened a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They live on the same street or on the same block or something.
They're
I mean,
they're
pretty
within
close.
like a less than
Yeah.
5-minute drive from
yeah,
each
yeah.
other. Yeah.
So
Yeah, Muhammad is, well, besides the fact he's been through some incredible stuff and he's very humble about it, he's a fun guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
All right, Rob, no pressure, but last one.
dude, I'm torn. I'm having a
I know
tough time
because you
with
had
this one.
like 17 over there and you're
Wow.
trying to pick 10 out of them.
This is really hard.
I asked Rob, while Rob is thinking of his 10th, I asked Rob from time to time, I think I asked Roger this because you two are the only 2 idiots that have listened to all these. What your favorite ones are, and both of you struggle to answer what your top 3 are, or even certainly your favorite.
You would first ask me, and I'd have to like divide them up into categories.
Yeah.
Like I would have people that I know, sports, blah blah, and I'm just like, I can't do that, Gilman. So,
Do you want to just not do a 10th and do like 3
I'm gonna
honorable
do a
mentions?
10th. I'm gonna
All
do
right.
a 10th.
He's committed.
I'm committed. Are we going to do some honorable mentions after this, though?
We
real
can,
quick?
but we'll do quick hit honorable mentions.
Yeah, quick hits. Yeah, just names. Okay.
Rapid fire.
Yes. All right.
I'm not prepared for that, but go ahead.
Well, Kevin and I can play too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. Oh man, this is hard. All right, so I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with another person I know. Though I haven't seen him in, I can't even fathom how long. But I'm gonna go Gray Lane. So I think I told you the funny connection here on Gray Lane is that I used to babysit his brother and him.
Yeah.
Even though I'm probably only, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years their senior. I think.
You are 5 years older than Gray.
5 years older. Okay, so anyway, but But yeah, I just again, I got to go back to when I listened to it. I felt like you were in that seat, Gray was in that seat, and I was sitting here, even though I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I could just picture him talking, and anyway, just really had a good time with him and his brother John, and their dad Sid was always a great guy, and just can't believe he let me babysit his kid.
It took you back to your childhood.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of recollection in that respect, and then I guess even though I'm only 5 years older, just really learning about his life, and what hearing things I never heard after like after high school, because that's I honestly I probably haven't seen Gray in a long time. I mean, I've got to be 25 or 30 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, just he's been successful, family, just what was it called, the Rat Daddy Accountant, so just a neat title for the episode, and so anyway, but yeah, I know I've said it a couple times, but I'll just throw out there that and you guys probably all had this experience to agree, if you listen to somebody or listen to something where you actually know the person, it's kind of just a different thing. And again, that's one of the you like you said, you always ask which ones I like best. That would be a category, the people that I know, personally. So anyway, but
I really hope Gray doesn't listen to this, because I don't want him to be the last one that's mentioned. So we do have the opportunity to talk about honorable mentions. Gray, if he knew he was the last one mentioned in your top 10, he would text me nonstop for the next couple of months.
But we need to clarify again, there's no order in these. Gray could be number 1, he just doesn't.
Or he could be number 20.
He could be.
Or on my list of my top 100, he could be number 100.
It's possible. But he could also be number 1.
Gray.
We will never tell him.
Gray, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yes.
All right, Kevin, do you have an honorable mention, since you and I are only playing an honorable?
Here's what I'll say. I could sit here and throw out this episode. The coolest thing for me has been some of the stories that people tell. Like Kenny Wingle talking about coming from inner city Detroit and then moving to King William.
Yeah.
I mean, just that's
Culture shock.
Unbelievable how someone does that.
In the same country, the most cultural shock you could possibly
About
get.
as much as you could get, yeah. Clay Meredith, some of the stories about Greg Maddox and
he had nicknames for everybody.
he had nicknames, and we got to interview Ray Ray.
We did get to talk to Ray Ray.
But talking about Greg Maddox, I don't know, is your son named after Greg Maddox? That'd be fantastic.
No,
if he
he's
was.
not.
But he said Greg Maddox is one of the most disgusting individuals he's ever met.
Yeah.
And he's a multiple Cy Young winner.
Considered one of the best pitchers of that.
So,
all
I mean,
time.
little things like that. Lionel's story was really cool. Gene Burke, I would have said for sure. I just love how he's just so matter of fact in the way he talks. Craig Grimes was funny, but once again, it goes in that category of him, right? So knowing Craig, I felt like I was sitting there talking to him, and all of your family has been cool. Getting to know Daniel, it's been a fun ride, and I appreciate you allowing me to be the occasional co-host. It's been a lot of fun.
Very cool. I'll just say real quickly that I've enjoyed all of them. I can't say I've enjoyed every minute of all of them, but I'll save my final comments for the end. But
you should go last on that.
And I'll just say that I was trying to put my own top 10 together, and before I knew it, I was up to like 17 or 18, and I'm like, I don't think I should come up with a top 10. I think the Superfan should come up with it, and I'll just stay the objective, whatever I am on this podcast.
So a couple things real quick. So I think another really cool thing about this podcast, and I'm not afraid to say this because I do know him and he's a friend. But Craig was hilarious, but at the same time, we differentiate on he talked a lot of politics, and we're very different in that scale. So that got me fired up, and that was really cool. And so I think that's a thing that this podcast does. You hear really interesting stories from people, and you kind of touched on earlier, you may agree or disagree on some of the things that they talk about, but you can listen to it and still still respect their story and find awe in their story and the way they grew up and things like that. So, so I thought that was neat. I got
9
a couple
guys
others.
on 3 bikes.
Oh, that's
right. I know.
That's one of the funniest things I've ever made up in my life.
You've ever said.
It makes me
the salt
smile
and
every
pepper
time.
basketball games. So anyway, a couple others. You just talked about matter of fact and just telling a story and just having a good time doing it. Trip Chalkley, I really like that one. We mentioned them earlier. I think we mentioned her, but Katy and Niles, they were that one was really good.
That's your first pronunciation. I think it's Niels.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I had to make Roger feel a little bit better about himself.
Well, that's fine. Well, then he should spell his name E-I.
Here we go. Here we go.
He's Dutch though, so it's all
right,
good.
there you go.
We just, by the way, we just blew the recording symbol, and this thing just went out of the band over here.
Well, it's probably for me for laughing.
Yeah, well, that's all good. It happens all the time.
All right, and then I just got to throw a couple more. Richie Crabb was hilarious. And then I got to look across, and I have to mention the original OG over
Wow.
there. I had Mr. Lee mentioned on
That's
my
incredible.
list.
I think you're just being polite.
I
I'm
agree.
really not. I'm really
I
not.
absolutely agree.
And then the last one I got, I just thought it was a cool story, and my kid's been through a couple. One of my kids has been through a couple serious injuries, and I thought Andrew Slater. I really liked his as well.
Yeah.
Just what he, again, it's everybody, and I mean, again, we're talking about, gosh, I mean, how cool is the spectrum, that you've covered on this? You've got, a sports injury as opposed to like a John Dow, or something like that. But that sports injury was, and that's what I say about mine, is that it was her fight, and I'm inspired by the way that she got through it, and I was inspired by the way that Andrew faced his and what he ended up doing, and still pushed through, and then again a little bit like we talked about Pedro a little bit, he's on the high school level, he's developing. I'm quite certain that Andrew Slater is doing some great things with the young men that he works with at the baseball program.
Yeah, no doubt. He's all in with those kids.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Roger, I don't know if you've got any.
I'm done.
I'll rattle off a handful. Mike Stockhausen, the original episode.
Yep.
The guy has done some incredible things in the military and some really awesome things, raising his 2 boys and being a great husband to his wife Katy. A lot of what you guys said overlap with mine. Richie Crabb, I'll just say I've listened to his 4 or 5 times because I just like listening to the dude talk.
yeah.
He's just got a way about him that I can listen to him all day long. Cody Miller and her overcoming her heroin addiction is just incredible.
Phenomenal.
And she's a really good person. Sharon Smalls is one of those people that is introverted, keeps to herself, but she is an incredibly intelligent and very, very thoughtful and well-rounded, just solid human beings, and I'm happy to call her a friend and a neighbor. Steve Dunphy grew up without much money, didn't know when his next meal was coming. A lot of time he ended up being a Green Beret and a Sergeant Major.
I had him on my list
In the Army. Amanda Ripley I had down here, not just because Roger screwed that up, but she's testified in front of Congress because she is a legitimate expert in a lot of things because she does amazing research that just becomes very informative.
And
for a
real
lot of
quick
folks.
to add into that, to add to her, of how incredible she is. I sent you a text, a picture a couple weeks ago, and I'm in the private security field, and there's an organization that's kind of seen as the organization for private security, and they're going to have a huge conference, and she's one of the 3 or 4 speakers.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just speaks to what she's done and who she is and everything.
And she was actually very fun to talk to, very approachable. Yeah, she was great.
Very engaging.
And so when Roger screwed that up, I was kind of mad at him, actually. And then my last one, just real quickly, and it's entirely because he's here, Kevin Flippen.
Absolutely.
No, but Kevin has lived a compelling life, and
Wow.
he's a decent dad to his 3 boys.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had Mr. Flippen down as well, as Mr. Flippen is actually comboed with one and done his own. So
And he's the occasional co-host. He's
And
all
he's
over
the-
this.
Yeah,
podcast.
I agree. Yours was really interesting to listen to. I didn't know,
Don't
like-
pile on now.
No, I didn't.
It's okay.
It would have been awesome if
honestly-
he said Kevin Flippen and he meant somebody else.
Well, I have to call it out too. Like, did you lose a bet because you have the center of the universe on your screen?
He
Not at all.
did that before I did.
Yeah. I mean, are you serious? Look how cool that is.
That's
No,
actually,
I mean-
it's from that one.
Okay,
When you're the occasional co-host, you get perks.
Yeah.
nice. Okay,
That,
there it is.
that beat the Superfan perks,
Yes.
which is a hat apparently over 100 episodes.
Agreed. Agreed.
You got any honorable mention or we're good?
I think I'm good. I mean, if I had to name some honorable mentions again, Kevin, yours was a great one, and all the ones that I think that I chose not to name because I personally know them or work with them.
Right. I stayed away from people I work for.
Yeah. So I think listening. So a lot of those, again, I think learning about them that I would have never been able to know about without being able to talk to them on a personal level. I mean, I think we've gotten to know each other. I think I knew you before I realized that we worked together.
Yep.
But even then, is that there was probably 5 or 10 minutes throughout a day that we could talk smack about
Whatever we were
whatever the
talking,
case may
yeah.
be, but it would never have gotten to a deeper personal level,
Right.
than this podcast would have gotten to.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Any final thoughts we want to share, or have we basically covered it all?
I think we all are. I'm just saying I'm excited for the future. So I mean, I think we got nowhere to go but up, and it's already been so incredible, and I don't think there's a limit to what you can do, and we're going to be here to support you.
Yeah.
So
It's very cool.
Good stuff. Somebody should write a book.
Well, so let's, just real quickly, we can mention that Rob has talked about writing a book. We put it out there for at least 120 people maybe to hear.
Right.
And maybe
So no pressure.
Maybe some of those folks will give you shit about not having put pen
that'd
to
be
paper in a sincere towards a book way.
I can take it.
Can't backpedal now.
Well, and to the point of writing a book, Rob enjoys hearing people's stories like I do, and Kevin, I know you do, and Roger,
Yes.
clearly
This has been awesome.
you have the same problem we have. And it reminds me that I think, by the way, I'm not stopping anytime soon, Lord willing, but I would love to do an inside look into what's been going on with the podcast and talk about some things that aren't controversial, but some things that you wouldn't know unless you were here for all of it.
Oh, that's a really interesting concept.
Well, Rob and I would enjoy that.
Well, Rob's been here for a lot of these.
That was just a dig at the number of people that listen to the
Yeah, you might get a T-shirt if you're
nice.
I got a T-shirt.
I have a T-shirt too.
Yeah, it's the wrong T-shirt because it's the old name. It's all good.
I
All
need
right,
to
I need
collector's
to get a
item.
hat to protect the solar panel.
I'll just say Roger and I met a couple years ago. I mean, we may have bumped into each other at the bakery, but I've known Kevin for 28, 29 years. I've known Rob since I don't have memories of meeting you. That's how long ago that was.
Right.
I'm ecstatic that you guys are doing what you're doing with the podcast. I really appreciate the support. And I love the fact that you're giving me feedback every time I ask you silly questions about the podcast. And I appreciate you guys listening as much
Otherwise,
as
we
you do.
wouldn't talk.
That's probably true. No, well, actually, so I will say this: we've talked a lot about what we like about the podcast, but one of the things that I really, really enjoy about it is we are talking to people that come from a place of I'm never giving up, I'm not making excuses, I'm never going to play the victim, I'm just going to go make things happen, regardless of my station in life, regardless of what's put in front of me, I am going to make it happen. That applies to everybody we've talked to.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I don't think there's an exception to that.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
without kissing your butt, Gilman, you do a really good job of talking to people, leading these interviews. I know I've said since you went into, I guess it was just middle management back then, and you would get out in front of people and have meetings. Whenever he was talking, I made sure to be there so I could hear him because he's got a knack for, gift of gab.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always translate. Doesn't mean it would translate to this. And it has. Like, you're able to interview. He even told me one time, well, why don't you take the lead on this? And I'm like, nope, I ain't taking the lead.
no,
You
yeah.
do this way better than I'd ever be able to do it. I'll just sit back and be eye candy. But
for me,
Yes.
Well,
for me,
yes,
since
that's
I'm
what
the one
you
who gets,
are.
Right.
I'm the one who gets to see you.
he
Yeah.
thinks I'm attractive. So,
I know Angel does.
it's one. That's all I needed. All I
you go.
needed was one.
Kevin, I appreciate those thoughts, especially given how painful they were for you to say. No,
What?
I'm kidding. All good. No, this has been a ton of fun. I hope we keep rocking and rolling for another 100 or however many.
We look forward to the next update at 150.
Yeah, cool. Thanks,
This
guys.
is awesome.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.